Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, taking a look back at California Chrome's final start in Southern California. The Winter Challenge Stakes at his home track of Los Alamitos. They break from the gate. He is number 10 from the outside stall. He is 1-20, and on paper, he should be 1-20.
I love that there was at least a little bit of racing that went on here, where a couple horses said, we're going to go on with it. It certainly didn't work for Presidensky and other foes, but at the end of the day, California Chrome, he's about 5 paths wide here at this point, and I don't think Victor at any point has any concern at this point. If a mile and 16th race, run him a mile and 3/16. Who cares?
Victor's not taking any chances. There's no way he's getting stuck in behind traffic. Listen, this is a race where there were 5 horses that were 100-1 or more, 3 horses that were 250-1 or more. That's the edge California Chrome had on this field, and you see Victor has him in about the 7 path right now. He's moving very comfortably. The number 4, Point Piper, was the second choice in this race at 21-1. He's a graded stakes winner in his own right. He won the Long Acres Mile. He's saving a lot more ground than California Chrome, but Chrome's going to begin to gear up right here on the turn. This is the point in most of his races where he displays a gigantic turn of foot, and very soon it's all over.
And you see Mario in between in the yellow silks on Point Piper. He's trying. At the end of the day,
can't move with
this is a Ford Taurus against a Ferrari, and you guess what? The Ferrari's going to win every single time. This is, again, I mean, I hate to just say this, it was a paid workout.
California Chrome is cruising into the stretch, and from here it's just a question of how far he's going to win. He's up by 6 at about the 8th pole, and he's going to win it by 12, and Victor is really never going to move his hands or ask California Chrome for his best run. And I guess the controversy, if there was one, was the 104 Beyer speed figure. Boy, there was a drop-off from the Breeders' Cup Classic. My advice to anyone complaining about the Beyer is that you're only supposed to treat this race as an exhibition, as a public workout. I have a feeling that if California Chrome shows up as expected in the Pegasus World Cup, we can expect his usual 115 or higher.
You know what my advice to anybody complaining about the Beyer would be?
Be nice.
Shut up.
Oh, no.
Who cares? Who cares? At the end of the day, everyone knew what this was. He's not going out there to set a land speed record. By the way, the racetrack was just like lightning. He got his final, what was it, 140 flat.
Track record.
Yeah, well.
Track record.
That's because the prior track record was what?
Uncle Lino, I think, had the track record in the California Chrome Stakes, amazingly enough.
Fun fact.
$14.5 million for California Chrome. Not bad for a son of Lucky Pulpit. And this was just breaking sticks. And again, it was an exhibition. It was supposed to win. It's supposed to get him cranked up for the Pegasus World Cup. This is a sparring session for a heavyweight boxer, basically. You know, one of those public workouts before a big fight. He goes in there and he beats up a couple of sparring partners, and then he gets ready for the fight. And this is what it is. So I wouldn't take the whole Beyer seriously. I wouldn't take the race as a whole and analyze every moment of it. Take him off of his Breeders' Cup Classic. Take him off of his tremendous lifetime record when he faces Arrogate in the Pegasus.
You know California Chrome.
Absolutely.
You know what he is, and at this point, a race like this shouldn't. I mean, if you're drawing any conclusion from this race, I think you're a fool. At the end of the day, you know what he is. You saw him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He lost by 3/4 of a length or a half length. I mean, you would like to think that you're going to get that horse.
You were watching this race to see if maybe he did something that he doesn't usually do.
He doesn't
a little
change
bit
different,
leads right, or maybe Victor actually had to ask him at some point against these horses. He did everything California Chrome-esque flawlessly. He won off by the length of the stretch. As for Point Piper, listen, there's no disgrace in getting beat 12 lengths by California Chrome. You probably look at him on paper and you say he's 15 lengths worse than California Chrome on his best day. I still think that Point Piper is a useful grade 3 listed mile type at the end of the year, and if he comes back to the races at the age of 7, and I'm sure Jerry Hollendorfer will give him a shot, he'll probably have his usual season where he'll lose more often than not, but he'll make a good amount of money.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you don't go on with a horse like this, and I think they probably should look at it and say Long Acres Mile. Let's circle that again. He was so impressive up there. Plan on that again as your long-term goal. Have that be your Breeders' Cup. Punt on a race like the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I like that they tried, and they ran him out here in New York, and they tried a race like the Kelso to prep him for the Breeders' Cup. He's just not quite that good. A race like the Long Acres Mile hits him right between the eyes.
Papa Cool was 98-1. He's a multiple stakes winner on turf. This was only his second lifetime try on dirt. He wasn't embarrassed at all, although you could make the argument he was probably the 3rd best horse from a class standpoint going into the race. Does this give Phil D'Amato at least options on dirt?
I don't know, and that was really what this felt like it was just to find out if he can dirt. He'd only run on dirt 1 time in his career. I don't know that you learned enough, and I guess I'm just kind of basing it on Point Piper. if he can't step with Point Piper on dirt, he probably should just stay to the turf, in my opinion.
Where he's had a good amount of success. Avanti Bello finished 5th. He hadn't run in about, a month and a half, closing in on 2 months. It was a fairly nice performance at Santa Anita leading up to this race, and he tried to follow California Chrome on the turn. He just couldn't step with these horses in the lane. I do wonder if he drops a bit in class, returns to Santa Anita for their winter meet, and he finds either a listed stake or a high-level optional claimer, if maybe he could pop at a decent price.
I don't see why he doesn't point toward a race that will be running Cal Cup Day, because he's a Cal bred.
That's right.
He's got plenty of options. I'm not going to hold this against him. Also, for the reasons we laid out on Saturday, he had that break, and it almost felt like this was just an afterthought. And when this race started being whispered about, they said, well, let's try. Why not? If this wasn't, how often do we see when it's not the plan and you try to do it, it doesn't work? I don't think this was the plan for him. We know he can run better races than this. Don't hold it against him.
And the rest of the horses will now drift back to either their allowance or claiming or preferred surface, whether it's turf and synthetic, and they'll probably meet with moderate degrees of success. The story wasn't about any of those horses, however. It was about the marvelous California Chrome, who earned a 104 Beyer speed figure in the Winter Challenge, and the final start of his career is coming up at Gulfstream Park, where hopefully we'll see him against Arrogate and some other nice older handicap horses in the $12 million Pegasus World Cup.